Hey, welcome to Game Lair, where we explore the science of play and the quest of learning. I am your host, David Colmer. Theme music by Caleb Willits. Welcome down to Game Lair.
I play piano.
I play chess.
I play everything.
I play games of my own invention.
I'd like to move to the domain of play.
All right, I'd like to welcome Ben Gardner to the show. Hey, Ben, how you doing?
Hey, David, how are you?
Doing really well. I think I used to call you Benjamin,
Yeah.
but then it was Ben, and then now I just looked you up on LinkedIn and I see Ben. So is that what you always go by now?
I do. It's interesting, though, because I just had somebody start at the museum that I work at that's also named Ben, and so no one knows what to call me anymore. So some people are calling me Benji because my last name is Gardner. People called me in high school all the time, so it doesn't bother me so much.
Last name is Gardner, so Benji. I kind of like it. Because I first thought of the dog from the 80s.
Yes. Yeah, which some,
connotation.
Only about like 15% of the people I work with get that reference because otherwise they're born in the 90s.
And now I feel old. So what are you into, Ben? We went to college together, right? We had our undergrad together.
Correct.
So that's kind of an interesting shared history that we have. We've been talking, maybe I was joking, once every other year or every 5 years we speak. But what have you been into? What's keeping you busy these years?
So with the pandemic, I've always been an artist. I think, I was studying art when we met in school, and I've kept up with art for the most part. When the pandemic hit, I freaked out a little bit, like I think a lot of us did, and realized that I'd never really concentrated on writing. And so I started writing a lot. Like I would stay up after everybody else went to sleep and would try to write 1,000 to 2,000 words a night. And it was kind of a short spurt. It was like 2 to 3 years I was just writing very intensively. And I fully finished one novel. And then I had 2 other novels that I had gotten to the 80 to 90% point, but they both need to be edited. And then I wrote 3 novellas. And so, I was really interested and motivated in writing during the pandemic and then a couple years afterwards.
You said a lot of the writing was in the horror style, or in what would you define it as?
It was part of the trouble was that I was saying it was horror. Other people told me it was horror, but I think it's probably not quite purely horror. It's like some sort of slipstream or however we want to use that. But if there was stepchild between magical realism and horror, it might be something like that,
Okay. Yeah, that's painting it with a different color. Yeah, that's nice.
Exactly. And I really enjoyed it, but then I've kind of gone into different areas of world building, I guess now, if that makes sense. So still using some of those principles and ideas, but I'm making physically, I've been making books, book binding.
That's fantastic. Oh, the physical act of building the book.
Which is a great hobby.
That's right up your alley.
Yeah, it's a pretty low threshold for entry. You can make a lot of mistakes and still make cool books. And so I've been making books and I've just been filling them with stuff. In part that comes too from I don't have a lot of studio space right now. So the book is portable, and I can do it every night, even if I don't feel like drawing or painting or anything like that. If I just do a couple pages in a book, I'm still working, keeping my brain active and my creative brain active. So that's where I'm kind of at now.
Yeah, you've always kind of come across as a craftsman. And when I knew you in undergrad, you would always describe yourself as a sort of inventor.
Yeah.
And I'm always kind of fascinated with your character. I have a question. Every guest I ask, we have the Bartle player taxonomy, which sort of organizes game players into different quadrants. Did you have a chance to look at that? Or
I did. Yeah, I did the quiz.
What could? Oh, great! Thanks. Can you share what you have on that?
Do you have a guess as to what I am, David?
That's good. I like that. Let's interview the interviewer. I think it's funny because I think with all of this, you always project yourself onto other people.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm looking at them, I would not peg you as a killer. First of all, definitely not a killer, and
My
also
lowest.
Not really an achiever either. You kind of go against the grain, and that's why I really want to have you on the show today, because you really counter mass ideas of success even, I think. And that's why I really wanted to kind of pick your brain. So I would say explorer, definitely, and maybe socializer.
You got it. Exactly. 67% explorer, 53% socializer.
I love your science mindset here of taking the actual Yeah, you have the numbers, and I love that.
That's why I
Yeah,
asked, because I figured you could probably guess.
I've known you long enough, right? I think.
Exactly.
And we
Yep.
spent a lot of time together in college,
We
actually.
did,
I
yeah.
spent a lot of time hanging out at your house, and I feel like you shared a lot of information about the art making process. And so your name really came to mind when I was working on this podcast because it is about gamified or game mechanics being used to improve learning outcomes. But that's a pretty creative process. If you're going to design a game, that's a really hard thing to do. And us instructional designers, we don't really know how to do that. It's not a skill set that we have. I wanted to talk to you mostly about your creative process. Can we just jump right into that?
Absolutely.
Would that work? Okay. So what does it feel like? I said maybe inventor, but before I tell you how you do this, what do you call it? Or what does it feel like to you?
It's been, I will answer your question. It's been interesting to see my daughter, who is 9, Hazel, because she has a lot of the same thing that I had, and I didn't know, I don't know, I didn't know that it could be genetic, or I didn't, or if, I mean, I'm sure it's some combination of nature and nurture.
Of course.
So Hazel and I share this quality, and really, yeah, it's like pretty straightforward that it's just like it's so weird to talk about. I just like have to make stuff. It's just like I'm not happy if I don't. And if with that drive, I am just constantly exploring and curious and really looking for the next thing that I can incorporate into making things or thinking about or writing about. So it's like I guess it's a pretty additive experience for me in the sense that I will be drawing constantly. I have to do some like research for my job. And when I'm looking at things through research, it'll just give me fuel for the fire, and then I'll start making stuff based on some of that research. And it's been cool to see Hazel, even though our house is a complete mess because the whole dining room table is her art making stuff, but she has the same thing. So if she's bored, and maybe boredom is another part of it, if she's bored, she will either pick up a book or she'll start making something or start drawing. And her goal right now is to be a wallpaper designer, but she's really into Sculpey right now, so she's using Sculpey clay to make little things. She's really into like thrifting, Goodwill thrifting, and like fashion through that lens, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, that is cool.
So we're all over the place, but she's like I can see it that she's like constantly thinking about the next thing.
So when I knew you were really focused on painting, and I think when I knew you after school, you had gotten more into drawing. What kind of pulled you towards painting? Because that's really how I identified you. But then now that I've known you more, you obviously have other interests.
Yeah, and I would say I started in drawing too. Like drawing is what I always tell a story about my parents were in a bowling league, and bowling the score used to be kept on these large sheets of paper. And so they would bring pads of bowling scorekeeping sheets home, and I would just flip it over and draw on the back, and it was, I don't remember exactly the size, but maybe like 14 by 20 or something. It was a bigger piece of paper.
Yeah.
Painting, I think, came about in undergrad at Millikan primarily because of Lyle Salmi.
Yeah. Okay.
My professor,
Yeah,
and
I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
I've
I've been looking at his work more online. It's really, really vibrant. Lots of colors.
I just went back. It's like the first time I'd been back to Millikan for a long time, but because his last year was last year, so he retired last year, and I went back for that. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Millikan, I would have class with Lyle from 9 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, and it would be painting, drawing, and printmaking, and that was Tuesday and Thursday for like 2 or 3 years, And all the studios were right next to one another, so I would just walk from one to the next, get lunch and dinner in between or something. And Lyle's passionate about painting, and then in graduate school, Mike Willie and some other professors were super passionate about painting, so I kind of followed in their footsteps.
Okay. And then I noticed we haven't spoken much about it, but so it sounds like you've kind of moved as an art maker, an artist, and now I feel like you're working more in the art industry, or you're working as kind of like administration or even executive or C-suite in the art world. So I'm just curious about that transition and how that felt.
Yeah, absolutely. So after graduate school, I worked a few part-time jobs, and then started teaching at Drake University in 2008 as a drawing instructor. And I taught there for 14 years. I went through the promotion and tenure process and became full professor. And then the pandemic was hard for professors. It was hard for everybody. I was teaching drawing.
Well, yeah,
using an
especially a
iPad.
drawing instructor. That's very, you kind of want to be in the same room.
I was teaching by Zoom and drawing on an iPad, and it was really wild. And then at the same time, my spouse got a job in Bloomington, Indiana. And so we decided to transition, move from Des Moines, Iowa to Bloomington, Indiana, and I was an academic advisor for a little while as a placeholder job. And then I started at the Ashkenazi Museum of Art my title is University Experiences Manager, which means nothing to no one really, but I'm in the education department is what I am, and I help faculty schedule course-connected tours. And so, like, one of my favorite tours that I helped design so far was for a history course called Cannibalism and Civilization. And so I got to pick out objects in the museum that could be good for that, used as teaching instruments for that tour. Worked with the professor to schedule or to create the tour, but had to do my own research. So it's not like intensive research, but I get to do light research on art objects in the museum and work with faculty members so it can be used for pedagogical purposes.
Okay. That's fantastic. So you have like groups of maybe school children that visit through and then go through the experience, or what do you mean by pedagogical experience?
Yeah, we're an education team of 5 in the museum.
Okay.
And one of my colleagues handles all the public tours, so that would include K through 12. I am only Indiana University students. So the museum is situated on IU's campus. So I'm kind of like I only do course-connected tours. So courses that are offered through IU.
I get it.
If that makes sense.
It does. Okay.
So it's just we talk about them as constituents usually.
Okay.
Like my colleague Laura, her constituents are the public, and then K through 12 tours. So she interfaces with a lot of public school teachers.
So you do have that element.
We do, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just too much of a workload for one person, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It probably makes sense to divide and conquer there just a little
Yeah.
bit.
And then the other thing, too, I'll say, David, that I am going to spring on you a little bit, is that at some point, I can't even remember when this was now, but at some point I became obsessed with like the material culture of games, particularly like role-playing games. I mean, that just in the last 10 years, there have been amazing publications of role-playing games. The books that have been made are just bonkers, and I wish I had more time to play them. Like if you were talking about the number of times I've actually played these games, it's very minimal. I've maybe done it a handful of times, but the books, like one of the really good ones it was even turned into a mini series, I think, on Prime Video, but like Tales from the Loop is when it kind of started for me. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've watched that whole series.
And that started as a role-playing game.
Really? I thought it started as paintings, surrealist paintings.
Correct. Yeah, even before the role-playing game.
Okay. I was more familiar with the paintings. I didn't realize there was a game involved.
Yeah. And that artist has a great book but if you can find his book, it's pretty amazing too.
Oh, hey, Dave here. Simon Stahlhaug is a Swedish artist who paints these retro futuristic works of these amazing landscapes in Sweden and Northern America. Think photorealism. Amazing. They're like oil-based paintings which have a lot of mid-century themes, but also they take place a lot of times in the 1980s. But they have these amazing inserts of these futuristic robots. There's a strong clash between the natural landscapes and these robotic figures. It's all done in the same style, but there's a clash of feeling around it. It just has this sense of, man, I wish I would have thought of that. So a specific group of his paintings, completed under the title Tales from the Loop, inspired both a tabletop role-playing game and a board game, as well as a television series on Amazon Prime, all by the same name, Tales from the Loop. Check it out. All right, back to the show.
You can really tell in some of the shots in that show on Amazon that it's, man, these are works of art. Just the perspective and the juxtaposition of nature against like these 1970s-esque robots. Really cool. Actually, I was going to ask, what are your favorite games
Yeah.
in that genre? So that's one of them. Is there another one that comes to mind that you'd like to kind of explain for the listener?
I was kind of interested in the visual culture side of, it's called UVG, Ultraviolet Grassland. Yeah, it's wild. And I got pretty interested in the ones, there's another one that's called Trophy. Are you familiar with Trophy at all? So it's essentially like, I kind of liked that people were playing with the idea of role-playing games, and Trophy is one of those that essentially it's like how you die the best. Like you set out with this impossible quest of finding treasure, but you know it's a doomed quest to begin with. And so you know you're probably going to die. And so it's like the least amount of suffering you can bring your players, as
So
opposed
what's the
to...
format? Is this a card game, or how does
It's a
Trophy
role-playing
work?
game, so it's a
It's just role-playing.
dice-based,
Okay.
just like Dungeons and Dragons, but instead of
Right.
being heroic, the exact opposite. It's like a it has that sort of like northern European ethos of like things are awful and let's just make it.
Well, it
not
makes me
as-
think of Exploding Kittens. And it's funny because this is the
exactly.
second episode that I've brought up that show. They're like, this
Yeah.
is the game of how can David connect the show to Exploding Kittens. But my kids love that because it's so absurd.
Yeah, it really is. It
It's
really
like
is.
almost like vulgar, like pushing the envelope on. That's
Yes.
inappropriate.
Yeah.
They love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I'm too like just when you ask when we talked about my favorite game, I probably play Stardew Valley the most. Interestingly enough, I'm a big fan of like both the new Legends of Zelda games, but then I'm also really into tarot, which I know technically isn't a game, but there's probably some older connection of card. You know what I mean? Like I've seen some people that sort of hypothesize that modern cards are connected to tarot historically,
Sure.
potentially.
I could see that. I've been talking to a friend who reads cards,
Yeah,
and she's going to do an episode where she might read mine.
awesome.
But she uses the traditional playing cards. She doesn't use tarot cards to do
Sweet.
reading. So it's interesting that you even say that.
Yeah,
So Jasmine, we're going to have you on the show.
Yeah.
You're going to read what I know already, she says.
nice.
So I'm
That's
curious. I want to talk more about the games, obviously. That's why we're here. But just so we've just kind of looked at your progression, you mentioned that you're going to be working into a residency soon. And I'm curious to hear more about what that is, what that entails, what that means for your career.
Yeah, so I just got here yesterday, late last night, because I drove. I'm in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, which is in
Right on.
coal country.
Cool.
It's got this old, beautiful brick wall, which
It's a beautiful
listeners
brick
cannot
wall.
see, but
Yeah.
it's an old furniture factory called the Bischoff Inn that's been transformed into a hotel. So, like anybody can book this hotel, but the proprietor, Maria, also offers micro residencies and residencies to artists here.
Okay.
So
Great.
I'm hoping to talk to her about it a little bit more, but I think she started the project in hopes of helping build the community a little bit. But I'll be here for the next 5 days, working on some drawings and writing and sort of getting my life together in terms of art stuff, just to help. Because I've got 2 kids. We've talked about having kids before. I've got a 9 and a 5-year-old and lots of family responsibilities. And my job is definitely a 9 to 5 now and more intense. So I'm finding that I have to, as a professor, it was much easier for me to just be in the studio when I wasn't teaching, if that makes
Sure.
sense.
It would make sense. Yeah, that would add up.
And so now I have to be a little bit more proactive about time. So the residency will help me get some time to kind of get my creative life in order.
I like how it's a different environment. Somehow
Yeah.
that speaks to me. Does that resonate with you, or?
Yes. Yeah, and I don't know why. I wish I could verbalize why, but it definitely helps. So I just like walked around this morning looking for coffee.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a train tomorrow to Jim Thorpe, like an old scenic railway to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, which is a coal mining town that has lots of Victorian architecture. You know what I mean? So I am kind of like just experiencing a new place, which I feel
Yeah.
like has a little bit of anxiety to it, but then also opens you up to new stuff too, I think.
I think you're right. Do you remember Dr. Joellen Jacobs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about her all the time.
Me too. And if I can ever find her, I'm going to ask for her to be on the show. But she basically opened up the world of Buddhism to me.
Yeah.
And Ancient World Wisdom was a fantastic class. And you just reminded me of that. And it's something I wanted to bring up anyway as a segue. Just the idea that there's never David and there's never
Yeah.
Ben. There's
Yeah.
David plus the environment, or Ben plus the environment, in the sense that now this is Ben, but up there in coal
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, does that resonate with you, or
Absolutely.
is that part of it? Am I putting words in your mouth?
Absolutely. No, not at all. And I think it's something, so though the majority of my position now at the museum is not teaching based, it's work. I still work with students, and then I do teach a class. I teach one class called Materials and Techniques, and essentially it's a
Okay.
materials study class of art objects. So we get to get real nerdy about like what things are made of, which is awesome. And it's something I feel like that is really big. If we look at a painting, it's easy for somebody to say like, oh, this painting is made of oil paint and on linen, and it has this gold gilded frame or something like that. But then to encourage students to think about like where all those things could lead, I don't know. You know what I mean? I think it's like a microcosm a little bit of what you're talking about, where we think about our objects. And the funny thing is that what I've learned in museums so far, I've been there for like 2 years now, and the biggest thing that happens is that people walk into the museum and look at art objects, and I feel like most often they feel like they're supposed to have a transcendental experience, and it like really puts pressure on them to do so, even if they don't feel anything. And it's like, for me, like it's never been, there've been a few things that I've stood in front of and had transcendental experience, but it's the context and thinking that leads to any meaningful experience I've ever had with art, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So is it fun to watch them stand in the art museum and try and force it to be transcend? Like, do they like shiver or shake, or can you see them like trying to make it happen?
I wish that would be
Because
so
I would
awesome.
really need some footage of that if that ever happens. It just
Yeah, I
take
would.
some
No, I would
video
definitely
for
have a YouTube channel and document that if that happened. Sometimes it's painful, but like the other times it's just like, oh, okay, I can, like, it makes my job really easy if I'm an educator. It's like, okay, but instead of saying something profound about this, just walk it back and just tell me what you see, Like we talk about visual analysis, and so often people will just jump to content without even like really looking at what they see. And so it's like interesting which I think goes back to Joel and Jacobs.
Go for
The
it.
most profound thing that Dr. Jacobs did for me was make me feel bad for not knowing about stuff. And it was just really meaningful for me. So she would be like, oh, you've never seen this obscure Asian film called Scent of Green Papaya? How can you not have seen that? And she would just approach everything like that. And I'd be like, okay, now I got to see Scent of
I
Green
have to
Papaya.
go see that, and then it's
Or
like
The
the
Secret
most
History.
amazing film. Like,
It is a great film. It really
It's a good
is.
one.
And it should
Yeah.
be more well known. I totally
Correct.
agree with her. But
Yeah.
for like a 18-year-old or a 19-year-old in her class, I was just like, oh man, she knows about so much. And this is what I'm here for in college. She's doing
Yeah.
it.
She got me interested in the concept of aesthetics, just the philosophy of beauty.
Absolutely.
Something I'd never even heard of. And then
Yeah.
it just kind of took over my life because
Yeah.
it was just like, there's so much value. And it goes back to what you're talking about, the materials you use to make the painting. Not like what would Freud say, or what would Nietzsche say, or what was Van Gogh trying to communicate to us? Like, what do
Yeah.
you feel right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah,
And so, yeah, it's just fascinating to me
absolutely.
that whole idea of just aesthetics.
Yeah, and I credit her too with, it's very common to meet artists, or however you want to, it can apply to anything, but just in my time, I've run into a lot of artists that are very pro making and very skilled at making and very creative people, but have no interest in talking about what they're doing. It's almost like this badge that they wear that it's like, I just make it, I don't have to talk about it. But because I was taking class with Dr. Jacobs, and honestly, Dr. Money too, I don't know if you ever had Robert Money from
I took
philosophy.
him for philosophy, intro to philosophy. He was
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Both of them helped me see how knowing how to think about things, how to think about aesthetics, or how to think about, from Dr. Money, I remember more like logic, you know?
That's what I was going to say. He even taught a course on logic, I believe.
He did, yeah. Yeah. Taking classes with him helped me see like the interconnectedness of like making things, but then thinking about it, or what I was using and thinking, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I do know what you
the
mean.
web.
Yeah. And for me, I was studying theater, so I was performing, but then also reading all the Greek tragedies and reading all the Shakespeare. And so they would help me think about that connection between the written content and then performing it. And then also the stagecraft. So I think there's a lot of crossover there between making art and building a set. You know,
Absolutely.
It has that, the impermanence just built right into it, because we know we're going to tear it down in a
Yes.
month or two.
And so like I didn't even really finish, Dave, because I
Go for it.
got into other stuff, but there was a hot few minutes that my brother and I were working really hard trying to come up with some games, do our own games.
Yeah, tell me about that.
We're at like sort of the research phase, and I think we've kind of fizzled out now, but my brother Brad and I have always sort of had simmering collaborative projects. And it's interesting because I think we've never really talked about this, but we have different personalities where I'm like, and this goes back to the creativity question, but I'm a maker. I always will just do it and then figure out how to improve it after.
Okay.
With additional iterations. And my brother's more methodical, so I think he would rather have, if like he and I were going to release a game, he needs to figure out all of the mechanics and how they work before we even do like a playtesting version of the game. And so it's hard for us because we're so different and we haven't figured out like sort of the magic recipe for making our different personality types work together. But we had worked on a few different games.
That's cool. Could you share one of them? You made me think of a book called Art and Fear, where there's
Yeah,
the
it's a great
muse
book.
and then there's the editor. So it sounds like you should be first, Ben. You're
Yeah.
the muse. Go out and make
Yep.
a mess, capture it, and then flip it to your brother, and he can clean it up.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like I don't like I'm constantly getting crap about like, you know, how much to price artwork at or how much like how to take care of my artwork and stuff, but like to me the making is the most important thing, and so like I don't have that like holy objectness afterwards because it's already made. I still like looking at things that I've made, but it's not how art, and this is one of the reasons I think painting in the end I haven't really benefited from it, because painting requires being involved in an art market and sort of playing this game of like storage and value and increase in value, and every sale should increase your value and you have to kind of sort of participate in the market. Now I'm like much happier because I'm just making a bunch of work and like everything I make is $200. I don't have to worry about it. Like I don't care. It's just like if you want something, you just give me $200 and I'll give you something.
Well, let's segue back into the games. I cut you off about the games, and I was going to ask if there is a game that you had gotten further along on designing with your brother.
Yeah.
Maybe just walk us through that process, what it's
Sure.
called, or how you play, those sort of things.
So I kind of reacquainted myself with Magic the Gathering during the pandemic at some point, and like I have kids now, so we've been kind of relearning games.
Yeah.
And I really I thought it was brilliant in some ways. I don't play very often. I know how to play so I can, but like some of the people that I knew play so much that they set up these like funny games where it's just like they will open a pack and build a deck on the spot, or like a drafting version where you like open a pack and you pass it around the table and that's how you build your deck.
Okay.
Like people making up their own games kind of in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I created this card game that was based on, you know, it's somebody else's IP. So it was, I should technically say it was loosely based on, but I thought it would be brilliant to have a Magic the Gathering style card game based on a podcast called Tanis. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but
I'm not. I'll look it up.
it was one of the core, to me, fiction narrative podcasts that probably came out in 15 would be my guess. It's by a person named Terry Miles, was the main creative force behind it. And so now he's released 2 books on Rabbits, which is another IP of his. Rabbits is like a game. Rabbits would be really interesting in terms of your podcast. Like, I haven't listened to it enough to be able to really talk about it with authority, but maybe in a year or so we could do a deep dive into Rabbits, because it is pretty interesting.
I would love that. It looks like Tanis was launched in 2015.
Oh, sweet. Oh man, I never get dates right. Okay, great. But the idea of Tanis is that it's like a sort of place in the woods that has magical properties. But one of the brilliant things about it to me is that it's, so often like things are either good or bad. And Tanis is one of those beautifully nuanced things where it's neither, or it could be really good or it could be bad. And you never know. Like, it could be the Fountain of Youth. It could be Atlantis. It could be all these things.
I love moral ambiguity like that, right? Because it makes you
exactly.
think.
Because that's
really
honestly how it's going to be. If we realize, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is the world binary? Is it black and white?
Yeah, exactly.
Not the world I've been living in.
We've had to put things in 2 boxes just to make sense of things. Anybody who knows that that's not how it is. So Tanis really has all these levels of. So it deals with a lot of, like, there's parts on Alkigara Forest. Or there's parts on a comet that impacted in northern Russia, or ley lines. It's kind of like mythology, if that makes sense. Contemporary mythology.
It does make sense.
But it's a great podcast. I highly recommend it.
I'll have to check that out. I'll add it to my list, as they say.
There you go.
No, I love watching old content, because then I can just binge it. Then if I got Case 63, I think it was called, from a good friend named Betty Danowitz, and
nice.
I just listened to the whole thing in 2 days.
Yeah, that's
because
awesome.
I was working on my bathroom, I had nothing else to do.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I like that, because then you're really in that environment, right? If you can just binge something, I'll do that with TV as well. If you don't mind, I'd really like to take a shift here and just peg you on something that I identify you as, and see how you resonate with this concept that you are not interested in advanced technology. You're not interested in the most fast internet connection, or when I reached out to you, you shared some content from your syllabus, in fact, about how you will an article about never buying a computer, and then criticisms of AI. And I love this about you. You've always been kind of slow in a very good way. And I'd like you to kind of talk about that a bit.
Like, do you remember when we went skiing with your family, David?
I remember.
And I
that
didn't ski, but I snowshoed.
You did not go skiing. We all did.
That is
Benjamin
definitely
just walked around.
Contextually accurate.
That sums it up. Yeah. But I like it, and because it's like you're very passionate about doing less, or about doing things in a slow way. Kind of explain that. I want to know where that came from, and I want to know what it means to you.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm not a Luddite. I use computers as a tool, certainly. But I also like with students, college students now, the ubiquity of computers and phones is like something that I feel like I need to push back on, even if I'm like their crazy uncle that they don't think about again until they're like 60 years old, and be like, oh, you remember that one guy that said that we shouldn't have self-driving cars or something? So it's like a role I play a little bit, I think. So interestingly enough, when I stopped painting, I started making short films generated by, most of the content was generated by AI. And so I did see AI for a while as a tool, but now like the energy usage is what concerns me more than that. So it's kind of trumped that and taken it out. And really, it's in the syllabus, it's about placing the choice in the hands of students. Like, if they think, to me, it's like I don't care if you use AI to write a paper necessarily. Like, they have to answer for that themselves if that's their choice. Like, I don't have time or energy to keep up with that. And then they're also at an institution that's constantly using AI to write things, like press releases, so it feels like hypocrisy if I tell students not to use AI when the other faculty members are using AI. So really, that energy thing is just about this is the main concern I have about AI. And if you choose to use it, so be it. But you know what I mean? We are all going to have to answer for energy consumption, at some point, I think.
And I think it should be something that more people are aware of, that this search that you can do free on ChatGPT is up to 10 times the energy consumption as a simple Google search. So not something you want to just sit around and do all day for no reason. And I think to add on to what you were saying, maybe if there's a purpose for it, right, and you're just really focused on maybe simplifying something, that's fine, and you're definitely going to use it. Maybe be conscious, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't think people like visit locations to see data centers. You know, data centers all look the same. They all look like big blocks. And like, I don't have anything against big blocks, but it's like, if this is our future, I just don't. I mean, so there's this concept called the singularity, and I still haven't like really figured it out totally yet.
Okay.
But essentially, it's a tech person's theory. I'm probably not saying it completely correctly, but a tech person's theory that essentially what we're moving to is a single organism. And through our tech usage, through everything, we're trying to create the singularity. And we're rapidly going to that. And so it is like this kind of more nuanced concept of, like, instead of just robots taking over, it's sort of this, like, there will be no difference between robots and humans. Like, it'll just be one. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an off
I like
the wall.
it. I like it because I was thinking about what you sent me, and at work I am being asked more to use AI, and it is sort of fun. There's a novelty to it. But what I've noticed in my writing, I've started writing a lot in the last couple of years.
Nice.
And I've been using the AI more and more to sort of organize my thoughts or generate ideas and then work with them. And I feel like the more I use it, the more generic
Absolutely.
becomes. It's just
Absolutely.
like this groupthink.
Absolutely.
Or the brain of the world.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, where's Dave?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
And people stopped reading. Like, at a certain point, like, people read it less because it's just, he didn't really say anything.
Yep. Yeah.
It wasn't a novel idea.
Yeah. I agree. And like, the reason I was doing AI stuff as an art tool was because of how bad it was at doing some of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I loved the mistakes.
Yes, I agree.
people
And there's
talk
going to be
about-
fewer and fewer, right? It's going to be less and
exactly.
less of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I was trying to take advantage of that sweet spot where it's like I would type in a prompt and I would try to mess it up. I would try to make it like really weird. There was one time I was trying to do, so I've always been interested in these drawings called shaker gift drawings.
Okay.
Made by the Shakers, not for a ton of time, but in early American history, and they thought they were communicating with God, and they would make these beautiful, like, sort of folk drawings. And so I was trying to get AI to make shaker gift drawings, and it just kept coming up with things of salt shakers. Like, it couldn't even parse out. It would be like I would give it
the
more
art
and more
of the prompt, right?
Exactly.
Like, how do you write the prompt
Exactly.
so that it does what you want? Yeah.
And it's really beautiful. Like, the mistakes are really beautiful. Now it's just primarily, everybody says to look at the hands, right? If you think it might be
weird right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And in the video, the mouth doesn't really fit the audio.
Exactly.
But I wanted to talk about that in the sense that from the theater perspective, live theater is good because of the mistakes. And you don't go to a show to see like a perfect show like you'd see on the screen. You go because anything can happen.
Yeah.
And we kind of live for that, even though we don't maybe realize it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's where beauty is for me.
Okay.
Not always, but I love, like if I find a note that's handwritten, even if it's a shopping list, like in a library book or something like that, I love that kind of stuff. I love hand-drawn maps. I love the things that, like, make us human, So I think it's not a practical decision for me. It's more of like a aesthetic decision, I guess. That, like, I really loved AI when it was wrong, like, or when it messed up, like humans do. And the more it perfects itself, I think the less and less I'm going to care for it.
So I have a question. What are games and why do we love them?
That's a great question. Because, weirdly, I don't know if this is, I'm not trying to just totally ignore the question, but, like,
go for it.
One thing that when I'm stuck creatively, if I'm like working on something, one thing I always tell people I do, or I would tell students that I have to do, is I have to, like, throw myself a curveball.
Okay.
And so it's like, if I'm working on a big piece of paper and I'm making a drawing or something and I don't know what to do next, maybe I'll take a look at what I have so far. If I have buildings, I don't know what I would have. If I only have, like, maybe geometric designs on it, maybe I'll say, like, oh, I have to put plants in here somehow. And I'll try to throw myself off a little bit to make it more interesting and more varied. So I play games, I think, all the time and with myself a little bit. I was thinking about another very impactful moment I had at Milliken was Kuma. Like somebody asked Kuma about meditation, and I think he was just like, I'm always meditating. And he just like walked away and didn't even like address it. You know what I mean? Like
That was me. Yeah, that was me. Takahiro Kumagai. He was my Japanese teacher in Milliken. Nihongo wa dekimasu ne.
He was so great.
He was amazing. And he also, I think maybe Dr. Dwellin Jacobs kind of opened the book for me on Buddhism. But then he was just there a year older than me. I could talk to him all the time. And I was like, so do you ever meditate? And he's just looked up. Like he didn't even mean it. He's just like, all the time.
Yeah.
And it was just obvious that I had this complete incorrect Western perspective on what meditation is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he's such an embodiment. Like, I know officially he wasn't he was a teacher of language.
Yeah, he was like not faculty because he was also a student in a way, right? There was an exchange, I think.
But I hear stories all the time that will talk about Buddhist teachers they've had, especially in like the Zen tradition. And I think I'm probably a little bit more broad. I don't know. I'm not so invested in Zen as much as I am sort of probably, I don't know. I'm forgetting my classifications of Buddhism now, but I have to know for
they don't matter.
Too. Yeah, they don't matter.
That's the whole point.
Exactly. But like you'll hear stories about Zen teachers, and like there's such this aesthetic of like, or this like thought of Zen being like transcendental and beautiful and stuff like that. But then you'll hear people talk about Zen teachers that like really just treat them like crap, like treat people like crap.
Yeah.
And I don't think Kuma treated anybody like crap, but I think he was like, I remember him smoking. Maybe I'm making that up, but I remember him smoking a lot. I remember him
he
like
smoke cigarettes,
swearing a lot. He was just like a real person.
Yeah.
So I've always thought about him as like my Zen teacher, even though he wasn't really, you know what I mean?
I think I asked him about Zen once, and he's like, "Oh no, too lonely." Like, no, like you have to go into the mountains by yourself. He was definitely not in the Zen fold.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was in like more of it. It was almost like a newer sect. I'm going to say it wrong. I don't even know what it is, but it was closer to something like Jehovah's Witness of Buddhism, or
maybe he was
really
Pure
like
Land.
modern.
He was probably Pure Land Buddhism, is what I would say.
Okay, I wish I knew. I really
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
One of my good friends at work lived in Japan for 17 years, I think, and he studies samurai culture. Yeah, sorry, this is getting into something else, but
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So I've learned a little bit, but not enough to actually talk about it with any authority.
Yeah, I studied like everything about Japan I could in college, history, language, and then I moved to Thailand, and I didn't know anything about Thailand. And I was like, oh, this was a terrible plan.
Yeah. Yeah. But it seemed impactful too.
It was. I'm not saying I have any regrets. I'm just saying, wow, that would have worked better if I had gone to Japan. I did visit Japan, and it was just so fast-paced. So that almost kind of goes back to your concept. I know when I talked to you about driving, you'd always say, well, I always just drive like 50 in like a 70 just because it's safer. You're like the only person in my life ever that has said that, So it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely slow paced.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What value do you think that adds? If I can push on that a little bit. What's your motivation?
I don't know, because I feel like I have to fight against a lot of stuff, right? Like I'm not the slowest person on the interstate, but I'm definitely not the fastest. I'm not zooming ahead.
You're not intellectually slow. I want to clarify there. You're very sharp.
I am, though.
And
I always tell people that it takes me a while to think of things. So I'm not good at academic discussions all the time or things that require thinking on my feet, because I need to let stuff sit for a while, I think, is where I come to profound realizations, if that makes sense. I don't think I read as like unable to think about these things, but I think it does take people some time sometimes to understand that I have the intelligence that I do, in part because like a lot of, especially now being at a research an R1 university, a lot of faculty are like have been trained to sort of think on their feet quickly and respond to things quickly. Whereas I'm more of like a slow burn type person. I think like walking is definitely something that I always advocate for. Like I perceive so much more when I'm walking or if I'm in a new place. And so like I'll always walk if I can. It's just like being in a car is not the same. Being in the car also changes something for me where it's like video game and some, you know what I mean? It's like me versus the other cars, kind of.
Yeah.
And I have to change my own mindset about that so I'm not like literally playing Frogger or Crossy Road or something while I'm driving.
Yeah. I know
Or
what you
Mario
mean.
Kart, you know? I'm
Yeah.
not playing Mario Kart, though it would be awesome, I think. But I it's funny too because I love I love Mario Kart. So
Yeah. Who
that's a
doesn't?
weird
Yeah.
contradiction, but yeah, it's still one of
Yeah.
my favorite games.
You don't want to drive on the highway like that, though. So I
No,
think
no,
there's a
no,
safety
absolutely
concern.
not. Yeah, because we don't have shells, you know. Like there's no equalizing force.
We don't have that umbrella or that parachute
Exactly.
either. And the ramps don't work like that.
Exactly.
You mentioned Zelda earlier, and I kind of
Yeah.
want to push on that because I love Zelda. Every iteration of Zelda has just tickled me. And I think I haven't really asked you directly about game mechanics. So is there a reason that you mentioned Zelda? Is there a game mechanic there that you like?
Yeah, I think it's like the open world. So it feeds my explorer thing in the
Okay.
what we talked about earlier. Um,
Taxonomy. Yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot the name. But I think too, it's the same reason I like Stardew Valley in that like I can kind of choose what I want to do. And so if I am feeling like a little bit more aggressive, I might go hunting, but it's not the main gist of it. So even in my children, like I've really been pushing Mario or Nintendo over other options just because I think, and it's nothing against the other systems, but PlayStation and Xbox to me focus a little bit more on like aggressive video games, even if it's like superheroes or things like that. Mario is like kind of aggressive, and maybe the aggression is like hidden amongst cuteness, but Nintendo just generally, I think, has more nuance in terms of that, like good versus evil thing. And Sam, my 5-year-old, is desperately trying to find what is evil so he can crush it. Right? Like it's the main force of his life right now. Is like
That's so cute.
everything is that he wants to
cute.
crush as evil, and he wants to
Yeah.
enact violence on it.
Yeah.
So the more we can pull away from that,
It's ironic,
the
right?
better. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the brand of Nintendo throughout history. Is these
Exactly.
games have been curated for children, so it's
Yeah.
a really good thing to introduce kids to. We just recently got the Nintendo Switch.
Nice. Yeah.
It's been good. It's been good overall. We got into Roblox and Minecraft, and that's all good. But the Roblox is a little weird because it's user-generated content. So
Yes.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like similar to YouTube in a lot of ways, where it's like, this is just really not for kids,
Yeah.
like or anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry to
No, I just started talking.
get distracted from
You're fine.
Zelda. Storyline is solid.
Yeah.
It's like an archetype, but it also is, yeah, so it plays on archetypes, but it's constantly reinventing itself to keep me engaged too, I think. So like Tears of the Kingdom, yeah, it's just amazing. You know, from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom is like, I couldn't believe that a sequel could be that improved upon when I thought Breath of the Wild was great in and of itself, you know. But I used to try to play like World of Warcraft or some more of those open game things. And I'm much more like, if I'm going to do a hero's quest, it's by myself. Like I don't have any interest in engaging with a community or fighting with people. It's much more just me going through the motions of doing it. But I like the discovery. I like the finding new places, new things. Even like Tears of the Kingdom, like crafting and putting things together is such an integral part of it that it's just amazing, you know.
I started playing Ocarina of Time with my son. And so
Beautiful game.
yeah, that one is just for me when I really, was coming of age and played the whole game, and so it's just kind of a special storyline for me, strangely enough. When you play a game like 10 times like that and the game takes dozens of hours, yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah. But those
We're
games you
looking
can
forward.
play over and over again, you know.
You can. And we're
Yeah.
looking forward to getting the newer ones on Zelda, but I think we're still kind of transitioning into the Switch and playing the games we got when we bought it. Let's play those
Yeah.
out first, just as a
Yeah.
basic financial point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But this is probably a very unpopular opinion, but if you can,
I'm
I
here
would
for it.
start with Breath of the Wild
Okay.
and
Okay.
then go transition to Tears of the King. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of hours for both games, obviously, but Breath of the Wild was beautiful in its own way. And it really is like, in my mind, one of the better like companions. Like or sequel. Tears of the Kingdom technically is a sequel, I think, but together, I just think they're really beautiful.
Why would it be unpopular? Is it because they released in opposite order than what you're suggesting, or why?
Tears of the Kingdom is just better. I think
Okay.
legitimately like a better game. You have more
Okay.
options. You have more flexibility in terms of like how you handle objects, and I think there's more mystery to it for me too, which is not vacant in Breath of the Wild, but Breath of the Wild is more predictable maybe. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but predictable in terms of storyline. It's still great. But I think they they approached it as like making improvements for Tears of the Kingdom, and so I think a lot of people would just say like, maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was very worthwhile to me to play both games.
That's
And I
fantastic.
still haven't finished both games.
Sounds about right with Zelda, right?
Exactly.
It takes me a decade to get through one game. And that's
Exactly.
part of the beauty, I think, is
Yeah.
I actually aged. I started in grade school and I finished in college.
Yes. Yeah.
That's part of the story, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, other than a cat or a dog, what is your favorite animal, Ben?
This is a ridiculously hard question, but I think the reason it's hard for me is because I tend to like think about symbolic meaning too of
Yes,
animals, and
of
so
course.
I
As you
think
would.
right. What's that?
As you would.
Yeah. Um, I think right now it, and this will change like next week, but so I think right now it might be a skunk. Might be my animal. We have skunks in our neighborhood, so we live in a town, but we have like deer in our backyard all the time, and we have skunks, and it's just really amazing to me that like we can tell the animal's presence just by its scent,
Yeah.
even though I've only seen one. But it's like probably every 7 days or something, we'll just wake up and like even one time, my daughter will be super embarrassed that I said this, but Hazel woke up one morning and she came like kind of barreling into our room and said, "Sam peed his bed, Sam peed his bed." And she was really upset. And so we went, and it was like 3 in the morning or something. So, of course, we didn't have our senses about us. And we went in and we were just like, "Oh, it's okay." And we just arranged bedding and stuff like that. But it was just the skunk. It was the smell of the skunk that she woke up smelling the skunk.
Wow.
And it hadn't sprayed necessarily. I mean, they just
Yeah.
have their musk.
Yeah.
So I think it's like this like ghost presence that's like always there, and I'm
Yeah.
always kind of terrified. And they're actually like really beautiful animals.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of like that contradiction where it's like, we're meant to fear the skunk for very good reasons.
Right.
The smell, if I don't want to ever be sprayed, but the odor, the musk is like not totally unpleasant. It's a
It
little bit
really
like
isn't. Yeah.
gasoline. It's like I don't want to say I like the smell of gasoline, but
Kind of love to hate it.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's occupied a really interesting part of my life right now.
That's interesting. I like it. We had a run in with a skunk when we were camping once. It came
Did
in.
you?
We were in a smaller tent, and I guess my wife's feet were like pushed against kind of the screen, and
Yeah.
it came up and licked her toe.
Oh my
And
God.
woke her up. She's like, "Something licked my toe." I was like, "No, it didn't. We were in the tent. How would something lick your toe?" So I just
No.
unzipped it and stuck the camera out and took a picture. And sure enough, like 5 feet away was a skunk.
What?
And we were very happy to not get sprayed. So
Yes.
she's also going to love that I shared that story.
Yes.
So with that in mind, is there anything that you wish I would have asked that I didn't ask? Anything
That I
else you
can
wanted
think
to
of.
talk about? Like something on your mind that you wanted to...
Well, I'm curious about your interest in a podcast and having a podcast.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. They put me on the spot. I'd like it. It's something that I've always loved listening to. And throughout my life, you've known me for a while. I used to make a lot of music and record music. So I kind of have a background in audio engineering just as a side hobby for fun. A lot of found sound, like we've discussed. A lot of just adding layers of things, music and sound and other recordings, just layering it on. And so I sort of found myself when I went to DevLearn in 2022. First time in Vegas, and it was a fantastic, transformative experience to go to a national learning conference for me. And on that Friday, I was going to head out, but there was this one last session I was going to hit on podcasting a friend had told me about. And I was like, I'll check it out. It was the end of the conference. There was just free alcohol everywhere. It was Vegas. It had been a long week, and I went to this show. It was a show. And in the session, the facilitator was Betty Danowitz. And she had some technical difficulties. She asked if anyone had any jokes. And I started taking over her class. And she made me, it was standing room only. I was in the back. She made me come to the front and sit down. She told me I'm the co-facilitator. We're going to do this thing together.
Brilliant.
It had been a long week for her too, I think.
Yeah.
But just the fact that I went to this thing with like kind of no preconceived ideas and took over the show. I have a background in theater, a background in training facilitation. I think since 2025 now, and I'm finally launching this podcast, I've been working on myself. Dug into improvementdave.com and just become a writer. I've started doing videos. And now I feel like I'm finally at a point in my professional and personal development where I'm ready to do a show.
Awesome.
So that was a very long-winded answer. But
no, that's perfect.
I had to give you all the context.
It aligns with a lot of the things that I've been thinking about and going through too.
Really?
Well, these are all like very broad generalizations, so I don't want to make it sound too bad, but like something that has come up a few times to me, and I see a therapist, and something that I've talked about with a therapist is that the models of masculinity that we have to go off of are not great,
Yeah.
Hopefully we had a father figure of some sort that had good, I don't know how to say it, because I feel like I'm getting in like tricky territory, but
go for it.
The idea of masculinity is really tough.
It is.
And especially like we're about at the age where I just understood that I couldn't keep living the way that I was living, with probably depression and anxiety and things like that I had inherited, not specifically from my dad, but from the concept of masculinity that I had in my head.
Okay.
And so it's getting into kind of some harder territory to talk about, but the improvements that have happened so far have been mind-boggling to me. It's like, I didn't think I could love my kids more than I do, but I do. I love them more. I love hanging out with them more. And I love my spouse more. You know what I mean? I've grown closer to my spouse. So it's wild to think about those things that we're carrying around, that, how much they affect us on a daily basis, and that some even small steps towards improving that is pretty monumental,
Thanks for sharing that. It is inspiring. It's something I've thought about doing, and I have done some therapy, but nothing consistent. I feel a lot of times almost like a lot of my work is therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Sometimes I overshare at work, and people are like, "Oh God, why did he? What?" So that's
right
a risk.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, and I've turned my blog into therapy. It's very cathartic to just dump my brain into this page and say, "Hey, these are things I'm sharing. I'm willing to share." And I don't have like 1 million viewers or whatever, but it's not about that.
Yeah.
It literally is about sharing ideas. If it resonates with one person and improves their life, then I've succeeded.
Agreed. Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing this. So
that's what teaching is too, man.
It really
Do you
is.
know what I mean? It's like,
it really is. Yeah.
The handful of people that I've affected have made it all worth it.
Yeah, and that's like we discussed, I think, before we started. There's the only reason I'm on Facebook is because I have students in Thailand that are on there, and it's a way for me to sort of see where they've gone, and sometimes they'll even say something to me or comment on a picture, and it's just amazing that I went to the other side of the world and affected their life while I was there for 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's just nice that my energy it's all connected, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, I went back to Illinois State, where I went to grad school, because a former student of mine was showing some of her paintings, and that was really awesome to see. And I remember her in drawing. She was in my figure drawing class, and I remember her kind of like pushing back a little bit. Like she didn't really want Maggie Crowley is her name. I don't think she like totally bought into why she was there and whether she should listen to me or not, you know.
And what was she studying? She was studying art?
She was studying art education.
Art education. Okay.
Yeah. And she took figure drawing with two of her really good friends. Like they were kind of inseparable.
Okay.
I called them the Maggies because it was Maggie. There were two Maggies and then another person named Stephanie, I think. But I call them the Maggies, even though they didn't get the cultural reference to the movie Heathers at the time because it was before their time. But Maggie ended up going to graduate school and even sent me like the email that like is so great to receive as a teacher, where she's like, "Hey Ben, I just wanted to tell you, I get it now. I get what you told me." And I'm like, I don't even, it was like 7 years later. I don't remember what I told her.
That Ben is gone.
Exactly.
He has left the body.
I had just started like teaching, so I'm like, I'm sure I said some wacky stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But it was still cool. And then it was even more amazing to go and see her exhibition, hear her talk about her work.
Wow.
And her work is really brilliant. And we've also connected a few times because like it's hard to be an artist. It's not, you have to like have goals, but then you have to modify them. You know what I mean? There's constantly sort of roadblocks. So we'd kept in touch over time, but it was just really awesome to see her success in this way and see her talking about her work and stuff. So
that's so full circle. I just love it. That's really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a big part of teaching, you're right? Kind of putting yourself out there and making a big deal about something that doesn't mean anything to your students, but you're planting a seed.
Yeah.
It'll sprout later.
Exactly.
So, Benjamin Gardner, I'd like to really thank you just from the bottom of my heart for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Dave. It was awesome. It was great to talk to you.
How can people connect with you if they'd like to?
So I am on Instagram. You can just search my name, but my handle is the_stone_tape, which is a reference to a 70s British horror film called The Stone Tape. It's a great film if you haven't seen it.
I'm going to check it out.
I am on Blue Sky too, but I don't check that very often. And I'm on LinkedIn, kind of like how we were talking about. But I'm always happy to email too. So if you go to the Eskenazi Museum of Art website and look in the staff directory, you can find me there too.
Awesome.
And I do have a website, benjaminagardner.com.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure.
It's been great to talk to you, David.
Go check him out. Check out Benjamin Gardner's art. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you when you see me. Hey. Welcome to Game Lair, where we explore the science of play and the quest of learning. I am your host, David Colmer. Theme music by Caleb Willits. Welcome down to Game Lair.
I play piano.
I play chess.
I play everything.
I play games of my own invention.
I'd like to move to the domain of play